Wednesday morning, 8:43 a.m. Gate C-14 hummed with ordinary chaos. Businessmen scrolling phones, families rushing to connections, the intercom droning departure announcements. Nobody noticed the German Shepherd until he stopped dead in his tracks. Max had patrolled these terminals for 11 years. He'd detected drugs, explosives, contraband of every kind. But now, the aging canine's entire body went rigid. His black fur stood on end. Then came the sound that made Officer Sarah Mitchell's blood freeze, a howl so primal, so full of anguish, it seemed to tear from the dog's very soul. Passengers scattered. A child screamed. Coffee splattered across the polished floor. Max lunged toward an abandoned Navy Samsonite by the trash bin, his powerful frame shaking. Tears, actual tears, streamed down his graying muzzle. German shepherds don't cry. In 12 years together, Sarah had never seen him cry. Her trembling hand found her radio. All units to C-14, now. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. Sarah Mitchell had learned to read Max like a book. Every twitch of his ears, every shift in posture told a story. At 42, with silver threading through her brown hair and laugh lines earned from better days, she'd spent more hours with this dog than with any human since her divorce. Max was more than a partner. He was the constant in a life marked by loss. The German Shepherd was 11 now, ancient in working dog years. His once pure black coat had dulled to charcoal, peppered with gray around his muzzle. Arthritis had stolen the spring from his step, and Sarah caught him wincing on cold mornings. The department had already processed his retirement papers, effective next month. 30 more days, they'd promised. Just 30 more days of what Max lived for, protecting, serving, being needed. Sarah fought them on it, of course. Submitted veterinary reports stating he was still capable, filed appeals highlighting his unmatched detection rate. But regulations were regulations. Mandatory retirement at 11, no exceptions. She'd already started looking at ramps for her SUV, orthopedic beds, supplements to ease his transition to civilian life. The thought of Max spending his days watching traffic pass through her living room window made her chest tight. Their shift had started like any other. The 5 a.m. alarm, Max already waiting by his leash, tail wagging despite the stiffness in his hips. The drive to Dallas-Fort Worth International, NPR droning about another government shutdown. Coffee from the staff break room, black for her, forbidden but desperately wanted by him. Terminal C was their usual beat. International flights meant higher risk, more scrutiny. Post-COVID protocols had transformed airport security into a labyrinth of procedures and checkpoints. Every piece of abandoned luggage triggered assessments, documentation, careful inspection. They'd responded to 3 calls already that morning. A forgotten laptop bag, returned to grateful owner, a suspicious box, child's birthday present, and a roller bag that tested positive for drug residue, prescription medication properly declared. Max had handled each with professional detachment, his trained nose cataloging scents, dismissing threats. Even at 11, even with joints that protested, he was better than dogs half his age. Sarah knew handlers who whispered that Max had something extra, an intuition beyond training. She'd laughed it off. Dogs weren't psychic. They were just incredibly good at their jobs. But she couldn't deny the connection she felt with him. Some partnerships transcended the professional. When her daughter Rebecca vanished 15 years ago, there one day, gone the next, no note, no trace, Max had been there. He was just a rookie then, but he'd stayed by her side through the investigations, the false leads, the nights she couldn't stop crying. He'd licked away tears she didn't know she was shedding during testimony. He knew her tells as well as she knew his. Now, watching him tremble before that suitcase, Tears streaming down his face, Sarah felt something fundamental shift. This wasn't detection. This was recognition. This was grief. This was personal. The bomb squad arrived in 4 minutes, record time for airport response. Sarah held Max's leash tight as he continued his mournful vigil, his entire body angled toward the suitcase like a compass finding north. Around them, Terminal C had transformed into a crime scene. Yellow tape sectioned off Gate C14, while officers herded confused passengers toward alternative routes. The morning sun slanted through tall windows, casting long shadows across the evacuation zone. "Clear on explosives," Technical Sergeant Rodriguez announced after running his equipment over the Navy Samsonite. "No chemical signatures, no wires, no triggers." He glanced at Max, who hadn't stopped whimpering. "What's got into him?" Sarah shook her head. In 12 years, she'd seen Max alert to everything from cocaine to C4, but this was different. The way he looked at that suitcase, it was how he'd looked at Rebecca's empty bedroom the first time Sarah had let him inside after she disappeared. "Open it," she said. Rodriguez hesitated. Protocol demanded they wait for full hazmat, run more tests, document everything. But something in Sarah's voice, or maybe in Max's keening, made him reach for the zipper. The suitcase opened like a mouth. Inside, curled in fabric softener-scented clothes, lay a little girl. 2, maybe 3 years old, unconscious, but breathing. Shallow, rapid breaths that barely moved her tiny chest, brown curls matted with sweat, pink pajamas with unicorns, a photo clutched in one small fist, the edges worn soft from holding. On her wrist, a hospital bracelet, Baby Doe, number 3. The blood drained from Sarah's face. Baby Doe, number 3. There had been others. "Medic!" Rodriguez's shout shattered the frozen moment. "We need medical now!" Max broke free from Sarah's grip. Before anyone could stop him, he was beside the suitcase, his large head lowering with infinite gentleness. His tongue, pink and careful, began cleaning the child's face. The little girl stirred, eyelids fluttering. Max whined deep in his throat, not the sharp alert of detection, but something ancient, maternal. Sarah had seen Max comfort victims before. It was part of his training, part of what made K9 units invaluable in trauma situations. But she'd never seen him cry while doing it. The tears continued streaming down his graying muzzle as he tended to the child with a tenderness that broke her heart. The paramedics arrived in a rush of equipment and efficiency. As they lifted the girl onto a gurney, checking vitals, starting IVs, Sarah caught a glimpse of what Max had noticed first. Dark bruises on the child's arms, older ones, yellow-green beneath fresh purple. Scratch marks on the inside of the suitcase lid, blood under tiny fingernails. She'd tried to claw her way out. "Sarah?" Captain Ben Harrison appeared at her elbow, his face grave. 20 years her senior, built like a linebacker gone slightly soft, Harrison had been her mentor, her supporter through Rebecca's disappearance, her advocate when she'd returned to work too soon. Now his expression made her stomach drop. "We need to talk." He led her away from the scene, but Max refused to follow. The dog planted himself beside the gurney, eyes locked on the little girl. When the paramedics tried to wheel her toward the ambulance, Max moved with them, maintaining his vigil. "Let him go with her," Sarah called. The paramedics looked questioningly at Harrison, who nodded. "Transport to Children's Medical Center," one announced. "K9 unit accompanying." As they loaded the gurney, Sarah noticed something else. Max's tail, usually held high in working mode, drooped between his legs. His whole body language screamed grief, not triumph. He'd found her, yes, but he knew, somehow he knew, this wasn't the first time. This wasn't even the worst of it. Harrison guided Sarah to a quiet corner away from the chaos. Through the windows, she watched her partner disappear into the ambulance, still guarding his tiny charge. 3 months ago, Harrison began without preamble, baggage handlers found an untagged suitcase at gate B15. Max alerted, but when we opened it, just clothes and toiletries. Owner never claimed it. He pulled out his phone, showing her a report. 6 weeks ago, Terminal A, another unclaimed bag. Max went crazy, but security found nothing suspicious inside. Wrote it up as false positive. Sarah's mind raced. He's never had false positives. I know. Harrison's voice was grim. 2 weeks ago, cleaning crew found a pink carry-on in family bathroom Terminal D. Max wasn't on duty, but he swiped to another report. Look at the contents. Children's clothes, diapers, formula, a stuffed elephant worn smooth with love. Sarah's knees nearly buckled. Rebecca had an elephant like that. She'd called it Peanut, carried it everywhere until we're pulling all surveillance from those incidents, Harrison continued. Sarah, I think Max has been trying to tell us something for months. We just weren't listening. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, Seattle area code. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Is she okay? The woman's voice was frantic, broken. Emma, my baby, please, someone said they found... Ma'am, who is this? Jennifer Hayes. My daughter Emma. She's been missing for 6 months. Someone called, said airport security found a child. Brown hair, 2 years old, wearing pink unicorn pajamas. The woman dissolved into sobs. Is she alive? Please, God, is she alive? Sarah closed her eyes. 6 months. A mother searching for 6 months while her baby traveled in luggage compartments, moved like cargo by someone who saw children as packages to be delivered. She's alive, Sarah said quietly. She's being transported to Children's Medical Center. Ma'am, I need you to listen carefully. Do you have documentation, photos, medical records, anything that proves? Everything. I have everything. I never stopped. I have her whole life in binders. The FBI said she was probably dead, but I knew. A mother knows. The woman's voice cracked. I'm at SeaTac Airport. There's a flight in 2 hours. Get on it, Sarah said. Ask for Captain Harrison when you arrive. We'll have someone meet you. She ended the call and found Harrison watching her with knowing eyes. There's more, he said quietly. I had records pull everything with Max's signature alert pattern. Sarah, over the past 3 years there have been 17 similar incidents across 6 airports. Unclaimed luggage, strange behavior from K9 units, no clear threat identified. 17. The number hit her like a physical blow. 17 suitcases. 17 possible children. Where are the bags now? Evidence storage mostly. Some were destroyed after the standard holding period. Harrison's face was stone. We fucked up. We all fucked up. Through the window, Sarah saw the ambulance pulling away, taking Max and the little girl, Emma, toward whatever came next. Her partner of 12 years had been trying to tell them something, and they'd dismissed it as the confusion of an aging dog approaching retirement. She thought of his tears, of the way he'd cleaned Emma's face with such desperate tenderness. He remembered. Whatever scent signature these children carried, fear, trauma, desperation, Max remembered every single one. I want every piece of footage, every report, every handler note from those 17 incidents, Sarah said, her voice hard with determination. And pull Max's medical records. All of them. Harrison raised an eyebrow. Medical records? 3 years ago, Max was injured pursuing a suspect. Took a bad fall, landed on some construction debris. The vet said he'd made a full recovery, but she thought of how he favored his left side on cold mornings, how he sometimes paused mid-search as if remembering something. What if he didn't? What if something in that injury changed how he processes scents, made him more sensitive to specific chemical signatures? You think he can smell trauma? It sounded insane when spoken aloud. But Sarah thought of Max's tears, of 17 suitcases, of baby doe number 3 who was really Emma Hayes, missing for 6 months while her mother never stopped searching. I think he can smell trafficked children, she said. And I think he's been trying to tell us for years. Children's Medical Center sprawled across 3 city blocks, its cheerful murals and rainbow-painted walls a stark contrast to the gravity of cases within. Sarah found Max in Trauma Bay 3, lying on the floor beside Emma's bed, his graying muzzle resting on his paws. He hadn't moved in 3 hours. Emma was awake now, IVs threading from her tiny arms, monitors tracking her vitals in steady beeps. She hadn't spoken, hadn't made any sound at all, but her hand had found its way to Max's head, small fingers buried in his fur. The therapy staff had tried to coax her into interaction with toys, gentle questions, even a therapy bunny. Nothing. But she held on to Max like he was the only solid thing in her world. She won't let go, Dr. Patricia Patel said quietly, joining Sarah in the doorway. The pediatric trauma specialist looked exhausted, deep circles under her eyes suggesting too many cases like this. Every time we try to move him, her heart rate spikes. So we're letting him stay. Sarah studied the little girl's face. Beneath the bruises and exhaustion, Emma was beautiful, delicate features, long lashes, a small cleft in her chin. The kind of child who should be learning colors and singing nursery rhymes, not clinging to a police dog in a hospital bed. The blood test, Sarah said. Has Jennifer Hayes landed an hour ago? She's providing samples now. Dr. Patel's expression was carefully neutral. Though I should warn you, Officer Mitchell, the child shows no recognition when we mention her mother's name. That's not unusual in trauma cases, but it could mean Jennifer Hayes wasn't Emma's mother. Sarah had seen it before. Desperate parents claiming any found child, hoping against hope. The mind could play cruel tricks when grief ran deep enough. Her phone buzzed. Harrison. You need to see this. His voice was tight. Conference room 2. Now. Sarah looked at Max, still maintaining his vigil. Stay with her, boy. I'll be back. His tail thumped once against the linoleum. Message received. The conference room was crowded. FBI agents, airport security, local PD, all gathered around a table covered in files and laptop screens. On the main display, surveillance footage played in grainy loops. 17 incidents over 3 years, Agent Diana Foster announced. Mid-40s, sharp as a blade, Foster commanded the room with an economy of movement. 11 different airports, all major hubs. Each time, K-9 units showed unusual interest in abandoned luggage. Each time, nothing actionable was found. She clicked to the next slide. A map bloomed with red dots. Dallas, Denver, Chicago, Atlanta, SeaTac. Pattern emerges when you overlay flight routes. Red lines connected the dots, forming a spiderweb across the country. Someone's been using commercial airlines to move cargo, not drugs, not weapons. Her eyes found Sarah's. Children. The room erupted. Questions, theories, demands for action. Sarah barely heard them. She was staring at one particular red line. Dallas to Seattle, dated 6 months ago, the day after Emma Hayes disappeared. Officer Mitchell, Foster's voice cut through the chaos. Your K-9's reaction today may have broken this wide open. We need to understand what made today different. Sarah thought of Max's tears, his desperate whines. I don't know. He's never reacted like... She stopped. Wait. Pull up Terminal C's footage from this morning, 7:30 to 7:45. The tech specialist's fingers flew across the keyboard. Multiple camera angles filled the screen, showing the normal morning rush. There, Sarah pointed. Upper left corner. Zoom in. The image pixelated, then sharpened. An elderly woman with silver hair and a distinctive emerald brooch walked past, pulling a small carry-on. Nothing unusual except Max. On screen, Max's head had turned to follow her. His body tensed just for a moment before Sarah had redirected him to their assigned patrol route. "Run facial recognition," Foster ordered. "Already on it," the tech replied. "And got her. Dr. Margaret Williams, age 72, child psychologist, founder of Angels of Hope Charity for Missing Children." His voice faltered. She has top-level clearance for victim counseling at 12 major airports." The room went silent. Sarah's blood turned to ice. She knew that name, knew that face. After Rebecca disappeared, the department had mandated counseling. Dr. Williams had been so kind, so understanding. She'd helped Sarah process the unthinkable loss, had even written a recommendation supporting her return to active duty. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered. "She has access to every missing child report in the system." Foster was already barking orders. "I want everything on Williams." "She's my baby." Dr. Patel's face was kind but firm. "Ms. Hayes, the DNA test shows you're related to Emma, but not as her mother." She paused, letting the words sink in. "You're her biological aunt." The binder slipped from Jennifer's hands. Photos scattered across the floor. Emma on a swing, Emma with a birthday cake, Emma in the arms of another woman who looked just like Jennifer, but younger, softer. "No," Jennifer whispered, but her face said she'd known. Somewhere deep down, she'd always known. "My sister," she said finally, voice barely audible. "Katie. She died when Emma was 6 months old. Overdose." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I'd been raising Emma since she was born. Katie was... She tried, but the drugs... I was more her mother than Katie ever was. When she died, I kept being her mother. Changed my last name to Hayes, moved to Seattle, started over." Sarah knelt beside her, gathering scattered photos. Her hands paused on one. Emma asleep in someone's arms, only the holder's torso visible. A distinctive emerald brooch pinned to their jacket. "Jennifer," she said slowly, "have you ever met Dr. Margaret Williams?" Jennifer's head snapped up. "How do you—" "Yes. After Emma disappeared, she reached out through the Angels of Hope charity, said they could help publicize Emma's case, get more resources involved." Her eyes widened. "She was so helpful, even offered to counsel me for free, said she understood the pain of losing a child." Sarah showed her the photo. "Is this her brooch?" Jennifer grabbed the picture, staring. "Oh my God! This is from Emma's first birthday. Katie took it. But how did..." Understanding dawned in horrible waves. "She was at Katie's funeral, said she was from social services, checking on Emma's welfare. I thought it was routine." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Dr. Williams hadn't just counseled grieving parents. She'd hunted them, identified vulnerable children, documented their lives, waited for the perfect moment to strike. Sarah's phone buzzed. Harrison again. "We've got her. Williams, she's in custody at DFW. Sarah, she had a laptop with her. The preliminary scan..." His voice cracked. "There are files on over 200 children, dating back 20 years. 200 children." Sarah closed her eyes, thinking of Rebecca. Had her name been in those files? Had Dr. Williams sat across from her in that comfortable office, taking notes while planning? What? Where did the children go? Who was buying them? "I need to go," she told Jennifer. "But I promise you, we're going to find out everything. Emma's safe now." Max won't leave her side. Jennifer grabbed her hand. Your dog. He saved her life. How did he know? Sarah thought of Max's tears, his desperate alerting to suitcases for 3 years. I think he's been trying to save them all. We just finally listened. Back at the hospital, she found Max exactly where she'd left him. Emma was sleeping now, but her small hand still gripped his fur. Max's eyes tracked to Sarah, and she saw exhaustion there, bone-deep weariness that went beyond his arthritis. I know, boy, she whispered, kneeling beside him. I know you're tired, but we're not done yet. His tail thumped once, always ready, even when his body screamed for rest. That was Max, 11 years old, held together by duty and love, still trying to save them all. Dr. Patel appeared with a tablet. Officer Mitchell, you need to see this. Emma's blood work showed something unusual. Traces of a sedative, but not standard pharmaceutical grade. Something homemade almost, old-fashioned. We've seen it before in cases from the 90s. The 90s, when Rebecca disappeared. When Dr. Williams would have been in her 50s, establishing her reputation, building her network. Sarah's phone rang, Foster's number. Mitchell, Williams is talking. Says she'll only speak to you. A pause. She says she has information about your daughter. The world tilted. Sarah gripped Max's fur, grounding herself. After 15 years, was she about to learn what happened to Rebecca? And if she did, could she handle the truth? She looked at Emma, sleeping peacefully under Max's protection. Then at Jennifer, holding vigil in the corner, clutching photos of the life she'd built with her stolen daughter. All these broken families, all these stolen children, and at the center of it, a silver-haired psychologist with an emerald brooch and secrets 2 decades deep. I'm on my way, Sarah said. Max whined softly, not wanting her to leave. She kissed his graying head. Watch over her, she whispered. I'll bring them all home, I promise. The federal holding facility squatted like a concrete toad on the outskirts of Dallas, all sharp angles and bulletproof glass. Sarah had been here countless times for interrogations, but never with her hands shaking like this. Never with 15 years of unanswered questions clawing at her throat. Agent Foster met her at security. Williams has been processed. Her lawyer's present, but she's waiving most of her rights. Says she wants to correct misconceptions. Foster's expression was grim. Sarah, I need you to understand. She's not what we expected. She's not denying anything. She's proud of it. The interrogation room smelled of industrial disinfectant and old coffee. Dr. Margaret Williams sat primly at the metal table, silver hair perfectly coiffed, emerald brooch still pinned to her blazer. She looked like she should be hosting a library fundraiser, not sitting in federal custody for child trafficking. Sarah, Williams said warmly, as if greeting an old friend. You look well. How's Max? Still working hard, I imagine? The casual mention of her partner made Sarah's skin crawl. She forced herself to sit, to breathe, to follow protocol. Foster and 2 other agents observed from behind the one-way glass. Dr. Williams, Sarah began formally, but the older woman waved her hand. Please, after everything we've shared, call me Margaret. Do you still have nightmares about Rebecca? You mentioned them during our sessions. The one where you hear her calling but can't find her? Sarah's fingernails dug into her palms. Don't let her get to you. That's what she wants. You said you had information about my daughter. Margaret smiled, a grandmother's smile that never reached her eyes. Straight to business. You always were focused. It's what made you such a good mother, despite what others might have said. What others? Oh, Sarah. Margaret leaned forward conspiratorially. The teachers who reported Rebecca's concerning stories. The neighbors who mentioned the strange hours you kept. The ex-husband who documented your erratic behavior after particularly difficult cases. She tilted her head. Did you know he was planning to petition for full custody? Ice formed in Sarah's chest. Derek had never mentioned, but their divorce had been ugly, and Rebecca had been caught in the middle. Still, that was years before she disappeared. You're lying. Am I? Margaret produced a slim folder from beside her chair. How had security missed that? And slid it across the table. Your ex-husband consulted me professionally, worried about Rebecca's welfare. These are my notes. Sarah's hands trembled as she opened the folder. Derek's signature on consent forms. Pages of Margaret's neat handwriting documenting concerns, incidents taken out of context, normal parenting moments twisted into red flags. And at the bottom, a recommendation for immediate intervention to ensure the child's safety, dated 2 weeks before Rebecca disappeared. You see, Margaret continued conversationally, I've spent 40 years identifying children in need, real need. Not the dramatic, obvious cases. Those get plenty of attention. I focus on the subtle situations. The overworked single mother who forgets school pickup. The father who drinks just a little too much. The guardians who love their children but simply aren't equipped for the responsibility. You're talking about kidnapping. Sarah's voice came out raw. Trafficking. Margaret's face hardened. I'm talking about salvation. Do you know what happened to my daughter, Sarah? My beautiful Angela? She was 7 when my husband killed her, beat her to death while I was at a conference. The social workers had visited 6 times. 6 times they noted concerns and did nothing. She died waiting for a system that failed her. The pain in her voice was real. After everything, the pain was still real. So you became the system, Sarah said quietly. I became what the system should be. Proactive, decisive, effective. Margaret straightened her blazer. Every child I relocated went to carefully vetted families, stable homes, good schools, opportunities their birth families could never provide. I didn't sell children, Sarah. I saved them. Emma Hayes was stuffed in a suitcase. She nearly died. For the first time, Margaret's composure cracked. That was never supposed to happen. The protocols were very specific. Mild sedation, comfort items, constant monitoring. The handler in Dallas deviated from instructions. It's been addressed. Addressed. Like Emma's terror was a shipping error. How many? Sarah asked. How many children? 237 successful relocations over 22 years. No hesitation, no shame. Would you like to know their outcomes? 60% went on to college, 42 became professionals, doctors, teachers, engineers, 3 are currently serving in public office. Compare that to the statistical outcomes for children who remain in unstable homes. Sarah wanted to vomit. She wanted to leap across the table and shake this woman until she understood that children weren't statistics, weren't items to be redistributed based on some twisted cost-benefit analysis. Rebecca, she managed. Tell me about Rebecca. Margaret's eyes softened with something like pity. Your daughter was special, bright, resilient, but showing clear signs of parentification. She was trying so hard to take care of you, Sarah. Making her own dinners when you worked late, hiding her school troubles so you wouldn't worry. A 15-year-old shouldn't carry that burden. Each word was a knife, because each word held a grain of truth. Sarah had struggled after the divorce, had worked too many hours, relied too heavily on Rebecca's independence, but she'd loved her daughter fiercely, completely. Where is she? Montreal. Margaret folded her hands primly. With the Beaumonts, both physicians, unable to have children naturally, they renamed her Rachel. She's in her second year at McGill University studying pre-med, wants to be a pediatric surgeon. A small smile. She volunteers at a shelter for at-risk youth, still trying to save everyone, just like her mother. The room spun. Rebecca was alive, in Montreal, had been there all along while Sarah searched every face on every street for 15 years. "She thinks you're dead," Margaret added quietly. It was kinder that way. A car accident, very sudden. She grieved properly and moved on. The Beaumonts helped her through it. "They're good people, Sarah. They love her." "They're criminals." Sarah's voice cracked. "They bought a stolen child. They saved a child who needed saving. Just like the Hendersons saved little Marcus from that drug den in Detroit. Like the Woos saved twin girls from their mother's boyfriend. Like—" "Stop." Sarah slammed her palm on the table. "Just stop. These aren't rescue stories. These are kidnappings, families destroyed, parents who never stopped searching, parents who shouldn't have been parents in the first place." Margaret's genteel mask finally slipped, revealing steel underneath. "Do you think Jennifer Hayes deserved Emma? A woman who lied about her identity, who let a toddler believe she was her mother? She's no different than any kidnapper. She raised Emma from birth. She loved her. Love isn't enough. It has never been enough." Margaret leaned back, studying Sarah with those sharp eyes. "You want to hate me? I understand. But tell me honestly, if you could guarantee Rebecca a better life, a safer life, wouldn't you have given her up?" The question hung between them like a blade. Because in her darkest moments, in the depths of guilt and exhaustion, Sarah had wondered, had Rebecca run away because life with her was too hard? Had she failed so completely as a mother that her daughter chose to disappear rather than stay? A knock interrupted. Foster entered, phone in hand. "Mitchell, you need to take this." Sarah stepped into the hallway, legs unsteady. "What is it?" "It's the hospital. Your K9 is in distress. They need you there immediately. Max." She'd left him guarding Emma, and now— "Is he hurt?" "They wouldn't say. Just that you need to come now." Sarah looked back through the window at Margaret Williams, sitting serene as a saint despite the handcuffs. Answers about Rebecca, real answers, addresses, photos, proof of life, were minutes away, but Max needed her. There had never really been a choice. The drive to Children's Medical Center took 17 minutes. Sarah made it in 11, running reds with her sirens wailing. She found chaos in the pediatric ward. Nurses clustered in the hallway, security guards blocking access to Emma's room, and the sound that made her blood freeze. Max barking continuously, desperately, the same tone he'd used at the airport. "What happened?" Sarah pushed through the crowd. Dr. Patel looked shaken. "About an hour ago, a man arrived claiming to be Emma's father. Had documentation, new details about her medical history. We were processing his credentials when your dog went aggressive. He's been barking non-stop. Won't let anyone near Emma's bed." Through the door's window, Sarah could see Max positioned between Emma's bed and the wall, hackles raised, teeth bared. Emma was awake, pressed against the headboard, tears streaming down her face, but making no sound. "Where's the man now?" "Security has him in the administrative office. But Officer Mitchell, his paperwork appears legitimate. He has custody documents, DNA test results showing paternity, even a court order for Emma's immediate release to his care." Sarah's mind raced. Jennifer had said Emma's father died 5 months ago. But what if he hadn't? What if— "I need to see him. Now." The administrative office was small, sterile, designed for insurance discussions rather than interrogations. The man inside looked unremarkable, late 30s, polo shirt and khakis, the uniform of suburban fathers everywhere. He had Michael Hayes' driver's license, his social security card, even photos of him with a younger Emma. But something was wrong. Sarah had been a cop too long not to feel it. "Mr. Hayes," she began carefully, "we understood you were deceased." He laughed, nervous but seemingly genuine. "That's my brother, David Hayes. Car accident 5 months ago. Tragic. Jennifer must have been confused when she gave you information." He leaned forward earnestly. "Officer, I've been searching for Emma ever since Jennifer took her. She's my daughter. I have rights." The documentation was thorough, too thorough. Court orders from 3 states, custody agreements dating back years, even pediatric records showing him as the attending parent at appointments. It would take days to verify everything, and legally, if even half of it was legitimate. "Why didn't you report her missing 6 months ago?" "I did?" He produced a folder. "Seattle PD, case number right there. They said because Jennifer was the maternal aunt with temporary custody, it was a family court matter. I've been fighting through legal channels, but when I heard she'd been found..." His voice broke convincingly. "I just want my daughter back." Sarah studied his face. Average features, forgettable in a crowd. The kind of man who could walk through an airport unnoticed. Could abandon a suitcase without anyone remembering. "Wait here," she said. Back in the pediatric ward, she found a small crowd gathered around a monitor. Security footage from the past hour, playing on repeat. There was the man arriving, checking in at reception, walking confidently down the hall. And there was Max, the moment he caught the scent. The transformation was instantaneous, from resting guardian to attack position in under a second. But it wasn't just aggression, it was recognition. The same recognition he'd shown with the suitcase. "Play it again," Sarah ordered. In slow motion. This time, she saw it. The man's hand, reaching reflexively for his pocket when Max started barking. The slight favor of his left leg when he stepped back. The way he angled his body to keep his right side away from the cameras. "Get me photos of every male connected to the Williams case," she barked. "Handlers, accomplices, anyone questioned at airports, move." While Tex scrambled, Sarah made a decision. She entered Emma's room slowly, hands visible, voice soft. "Max, it's me, good boy. You're such a good boy." Max's barking dropped to a growl, but he didn't move from his position. Emma watched with wide eyes, one small hand extended toward the dog. "Emma," Sarah said gently, "you're safe. Max won't let anyone hurt you. Can you tell me, do you know that man? The one who came to see you?" Emma's face crumpled. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Then, with visible effort, she whispered a single word. "Plane. The plane. The man from the plane." Sarah's radio crackled. "Mitchell, we've got a match. David Chen, former TSA officer, dismissed 3 years ago for policy violations. He was questioned in connection with an abandoned suitcase incident in Denver. David Chen, not Michael Hayes." "Lock down the building," Sarah commanded. "No one leaves." But even as security scrambled, she knew they were too late. The administrative office was empty, a window jimmied open. Chen had run the moment Max started barking, probably had an exit strategy planned from the beginning. On the bed, Emma had crawled forward, reaching for Max. The big dog lowered his head, letting her small arms wrap around his neck. For the first time since they'd found her, she made a sound, not words, but a soft keening that matched Max's earlier cries. Sarah sank into a chair, overwhelmed. In one day, they'd uncovered a trafficking network spanning decades, found Emma, arrested the mastermind, learned Rebecca was alive in Montreal, but Chen was free, and he knew Emma could identify him. Would he run, or would he try to silence the only witness who could put him at the scene? Her phone buzzed. "Foster. Williams wants to make a deal. Full cooperation, every name, every child, every placement. But she has conditions. What conditions? She wants immunity for the families who receive children. Says they're innocent victims who paid adoption fees believing everything was legal. And Sarah, Foster paused, she wants you to agree not to contact Rebecca, to let her continue living as Rachel Beaumont. Sarah looked at Max, still comforting Emma, still standing guard despite exhaustion and pain. He'd never stopped trying to save them all. Could she do any less? "Tell Williams I'll think about it," she said. "But first we find David Chen, and we find every child in those suitcases." Max's tail thumped once against the hospital bed. Even at 11, even broken and tired, he was ready for one more hunt. The question was whether Sarah was ready for what they might find. The warehouse district sprawled along the Dallas industrial corridor like a graveyard of abandoned ambitions. Corrugated metal buildings baked under the Texas sun, their parking lots cracked and weed-choked. At 3 a.m., nothing moved except security lights, swaying in the wind and the occasional scurry of rats. Sarah crouched behind a rusted shipping container, Max pressed against her leg. His breathing was labored, the day's exertion taking its toll on his arthritic joints, but his focus never wavered. Somewhere in this maze of forgotten commerce, David Chen was preparing to move his cargo. "All units in position," Foster's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Thermal imaging shows 6 heat signatures in Building C, 2 adult-sized, 4 smaller. 4 smaller. 4 children." The intel had come from Williams, delivered with the same detached precision she might use to describe a grocery list. Chen was her primary logistics coordinator, she'd explained. When the network began unraveling, he'd gone to ground with his emergency inventory. "Always kept 4 or 5 children in reserve," she said. "Insurance against supply chain disruptions." Supply chain, as if Emma and the others were products to be managed. Max tensed, nose lifting to catch a scent carried on the night air. Sarah followed his gaze to Building C's loading dock. A white panel van idled there, exhaust visible in the cool air. Chen would be moving them soon. Dawn was 2 hours away. He'd want to hit the highways before traffic picked up. "Movement at the north entrance," someone reported. "Adult male, matching Chen's description." Sarah's hand tightened on Max's lead. They had one shot at this. If Chen spotted them, if he managed to get those children into the van. "Wait for my signal," Foster commanded. "We need him away from the kids." But Max had other plans. A low whine built in his throat, his whole body quivering with urgency. Sarah knew that sound. He'd caught a specific scent. Not just any child. Someone he recognized. "Max, no!" He bolted. 11 years old, arthritis in his hips, worked to exhaustion, and he bolted like a young dog on his first hunt. Sarah had no choice but to follow, her boots pounding across broken asphalt as shouts erupted in her earpiece. "Mitchell! Stand down! Mitchell!" Max hit the loading dock at full speed, launching himself at the door. It burst open under his weight, and Sarah heard Chen's shocked curse from inside. She drew her weapon, followed her partner into the darkness. The warehouse smelled of motor oil and fear. Emergency lighting cast everything in hellish red. Sarah saw Chen immediately, pressed against a wall, reaching for something in his jacket. But her attention fixed on what lay beyond him. 4 small shapes huddled in a chain-link cage. "Don't move!" Sarah's voice echoed off metal walls. Chen smiled. It was the wrong reaction, and it made Sarah's skin crawl. "Officer Mitchell, Margaret said you were tenacious, like your dog." Max had positioned himself between Chen and the cage, a guardian made of muscle and fury. But Sarah saw the tremor in his back legs, the way he favored his right side. Whatever reserve of strength had carried him here was fading fast. "Hands where I can see them," Sarah ordered, slowly. "You know what's funny?" Chen pulled his hands free, showing empty palms. I told Margaret that dog would be a problem. 3 years ago, after Denver. He looked at me like he knew, like he remembered. His eyes flicked to the cage. Smart animals, German shepherds. They never forget a scent. One of the children in the cage stirred, lifting their head, a teenager, maybe 13 or 14, blonde hair matted with dirt, blue eyes wide with terror and something else, recognition. Sarah? The world tilted. Sarah knew that voice. Had heard it in dreams for 15 years. Rebecca? How touching. Chen's hand moved slightly. The good doctor thought you might appreciate this. A family reunion, courtesy of our organization. Time slowed. Sarah saw Chen's hand dart to his pocket, saw metal gleam in the red light, heard Foster's team breaching the far doors, felt Max gather himself for one last lunge. The gun appeared in Chen's hand just as Max leaped. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. Max's body jerked mid-air, but momentum carried him forward. He hit Chen with the full force of his 80 pounds, jaws clamping down on the arm holding the weapon. Chen screamed. The gun clattered away. Max held on despite the blood spreading across his black fur, held on as Chen beat at his head, held on until Sarah reached them and brought her baton down hard on Chen's skull. The man crumpled. Max released him and swayed, then collapsed. "No!" Sarah dropped to her knees, hands pressing against the wound in Max's chest. Blood seeped between her fingers, hot and terribly fast. "No, no, no. Stay with me, boy. Stay with me." Max's brown eyes found hers. His tail managed a single, weak thump. Around them, Foster's team swarmed in, securing Chen, bolt cutters attacking the cage lock. But Sarah saw none of it. Her world narrowed to her partner's labored breathing, the blood that wouldn't stop coming. "Medic!" she screamed. "I need a medic now!" "Mom!" The voice came from above her. Rebecca, impossibly, incredibly her daughter, stood there with tears streaming down her face. "Mom, is that really you?" Sarah looked up at the girl she'd lost. Taller now, features sharpened by adolescence, but unmistakably Rebecca, her baby, alive, here. But Sarah's hands were covered in Max's blood, and she couldn't let go, couldn't stop pressing even as she felt his heartbeat flutter beneath her palms. "I'm here," Sarah whispered, not sure if she was talking to Rebecca or Max. "I'm here, I'm not leaving." Rebecca dropped beside them, her hands joining Sarah's on the wound. "They told me you died. In a car accident, they said." Her voice broke. "I tried to find you anyway. I never believed." The paramedics arrived, pushing Sarah aside with professional efficiency. She watched them work on Max, starting IVs, applying pressure bandages, loading him onto a gurney. He was so still, so quiet. Her partner who'd found them all. "We need to move him now," one paramedic said. "Every second counts." Sarah started to follow, but Rebecca's hand caught hers. For a moment they stood frozen, mother and daughter, separated by 15 years of lies and reunited by a dying dog's determination. "Go," Rebecca said softly. "He saved us. Go save him." The emergency veterinary hospital was a blur of white coats and medical terminology. Doctor. James Morrison, the chief surgeon, didn't mince words. The bullet missed his heart by centimeters, but it nicked the pulmonary artery. He's lost a lot of blood. At his age, with his pre-existing conditions. He shook his head. "I'll do everything I can, but you should prepare yourself." Sarah sank into a waiting room chair. Prepare herself. How did you prepare to lose the partner who'd stood by you through the worst years of your life? Who'd found your daughter when everyone else had given up? Foster appeared with coffee and updates. Chen was in custody, already trying to make his own deal. The 4 children from the warehouse were safe. Besides Rebecca, there was a boy from Phoenix, twin girls from Sacramento, all reported missing within the last year, all written off as runaways. "Rebecca's asking for you," Foster said gently. "She's in exam room 3. Sarah shook her head. "I can't leave Max." "Sarah." Foster's voice was firm but kind. "That dog spent 3 years trying to find these kids. He found your daughter. Don't you think he'd want you to be with her?" It was true, and it broke Sarah's heart. Max had always put the mission first, the victims first. Even dying, he'd probably be frustrated that she was here instead of taking Rebecca's statement, gathering evidence, finding more children. She found Rebecca wrapped in a hospital blanket, looking impossibly young. A social worker hovered nearby, but stepped out when Sarah entered. "Hi," Sarah said inadequately. "Hi." Rebecca pulled the blanket tighter. "Is he?" "In surgery. He's fighting." Sarah sat carefully, afraid if she moved too fast, this would all disappear. "Rebecca, I need to know. Are you hurt? Did they—" "I'm okay." It came out practiced, automatic. Then Rebecca's face crumpled. "No, I'm not okay. I haven't been okay for 15 years. They told me you didn't want me anymore, that you'd sign papers giving me away. I wrote you letters anyway for years. They said they'd forward them if you ever changed your mind." Each word was agony. Sarah reached out slowly, giving Rebecca time to pull away. She didn't. Their hands met, and it was like completing a circuit broken long ago. "I looked for you every day," Sarah whispered. "Every single day. I never stopped." "I know." Rebecca's voice was thick with tears. "I know, because he never stopped either. Max, the lady, Dr. Williams, she told me about him, how he kept alerting to suitcases, how everyone thought he was getting old and confused, but he wasn't confused. He was looking for us." They held each other then, 15 years of grief and longing compressed into one desperate embrace. Rebecca smelled different. Expensive shampoo instead of drugstore brand, perfume instead of bubblegum lip gloss. But the way she fit in Sarah's arms was exactly the same. Sarah's phone buzzed. Dr. Morrison. Her hands shook as she answered. "Yes? He made it through surgery. It's still touch and go, but he's stable. You can see him in about an hour." Relief made her knees weak. "Thank you. Thank you so much." She turned to find Rebecca smiling through tears. "He's too stubborn to quit. Just like his partner." They talked for the next hour, filling in fragments of stolen years. Rebecca, Rachel in her Montreal life, was indeed in pre-med at McGill. The Beaumonts had been loving parents, if built on a lie. She'd excelled at school, played violin, volunteered at shelters, but always, always, there'd been a hole where her real mother should have been. "I used to dream about you finding me," Rebecca admitted. "But after a while I tried to stop. It hurt too much. I'm sorry." The words were pathetically inadequate. "I'm so sorry I couldn't—" "No." Rebecca's voice was fierce. "This isn't on you. It's on them. The people who took me, who took all of us, who looked at children and saw opportunities." She paused. "Dr. Williams visited sometimes, checking on her placements. She seemed so proud of how well I was doing, like I was a rescue dog who'd learned tricks." When Dr. Morrison finally cleared them to visit, they found Max in recovery, surrounded by monitors and IV poles. He looked impossibly small on the surgical table, fur shaved around the wound site, breathing tube still in place. But his tail lifted slightly when they entered, just a twitch, but enough. Sarah knelt beside him, one hand on his head, the other holding Rebecca's. "You did it, partner. You found her. You found them all." Max's eyes opened, focused with effort on Rebecca. His tail moved again, stronger this time. "Thank you," Rebecca whispered to him. "Thank you for not giving up." They stayed until the staff insisted on rest. In the parking lot, dawn was breaking over Dallas, painting the sky in shades of hope and possibility. Sarah looked at her daughter, really looked at her. Saw strength there, and damage, and determination to heal. "What happens now?" Rebecca asked. It was the question Sarah had been dreading. Legal complications, custody issues, the Beaumonts who'd raised her, the life she'd built in Montreal. There were no easy answers. "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "But we'll figure it out together. And Max," she smiled through fresh tears, "Max will be there to make sure we get it right." Rebecca leaned against her, and for the first time in 15 years, Sarah felt whole, broken and mended and forever changed, but whole. Inside the hospital, Max slept and healed, his job finally done. He'd found them all. The Beaumonts arrived from Montreal on a Tuesday. Sarah watched them through the hospital cafeteria window as they stepped out of their rental car. An elegant couple in their 50s, her in a cashmere coat despite the Texas heat, him checking his phone with the distracted air of someone important. These were the people who'd raised her daughter, who'd been mom and dad while Sarah was just a ghost story. Rebecca sat across from her, nervously shredding a napkin. "They're good people," she said for the third time. "They really are. They love me. I know." Sarah kept her voice neutral, though her chest felt tight. "You don't have to defend them to me." "Don't I?" Rebecca's laugh was brittle. "They bought a stolen child. Your child. But they also taught me to play violin and stayed up all night when I had pneumonia and cried at my high school graduation." She paused. "Mom cried. I mean, Janet cried. God, I don't even know what to call anyone anymore." Sarah reached across the table, stilling Rebecca's restless hands. "You call them whatever feels right. This isn't about choosing sides." But it was, wasn't it? The FBI wanted the Beaumonts charged as accessories. Williams had already implicated them in her testimony. They'd paid $200,000 in adoption fees, had to have suspected something. Yet they'd also loved Rebecca. Given her opportunities Sarah never could have afforded. Private schools, European vacations, a college fund that would see her through medical school without debt. "I should hate them," Rebecca whispered, "for taking me from you, for lying all these years. But I can't. Is that wrong?" Before Sarah could answer, the cafeteria door opened. The Beaumonts entered, and Sarah's first thought was how ordinary they looked, how devastatingly normal. Janet Beaumont's eyes were red from crying, and when they landed on Rebecca, such naked relief crossed her face that Sarah had to look away. "Rachel," Janet started, then caught herself. "I'm sorry, Rebecca. I don't know what to—" She was crying openly now, and Rebecca rose, crossed to them in 3 quick strides. The embrace was immediate, desperate, full of the kind of bone-deep familiarity that comes from years of bedtime stories and skinned knees and shared jokes. Watching them, Sarah felt like an intruder in her own daughter's life. Richard Beaumont's eyes found hers over Rebecca's head. He was a tall man, graying at the temples, with the kind of steady gaze that probably served him well in operating rooms. "Officer Mitchell, we owe you an explanation." "You owe me my daughter back," Sarah said quietly. "But since time machines don't exist, an explanation will have to do." They sat awkwardly, a fractured family around a plastic table. Rebecca positioned herself between the two couples like a bridge, or maybe a buffer. Up close, Sarah could see the ways 15 years of different choices showed. Rebecca held her coffee cup the way Janet did, tilted her head like Richard when thinking. Small things, learned things, the things that made a family. "We tried for 10 years, Janet began, voice steady despite the tears. IVF, adoption agencies, foster programs. Nothing worked. Then a colleague mentioned Dr. Williams' charity, how they sometimes had private adoptions available. Children who needed homes urgently, whose biological families couldn't care for them. We were told Rebecca's mother had died, Richard added. Drug overdose. No living relatives. The paperwork looked legitimate. Sarah's jaw clenched. I was a police officer, stone-cold sober, very much alive. We know that now. Janet's hand found Rebecca's. But then, we were desperate, and this beautiful little girl needed a home. The fee was high, yes, but we thought it was covering medical expenses, legal fees. We never imagined. You never asked, Sarah said flatly. A 15-year-old girl suddenly available for adoption, and you never questioned it? Richard's composure cracked. Have you ever wanted something so badly that you'd accept any story that made it possible? We told ourselves we were saving her, that whoever her mother had been, she couldn't have wanted her daughter badly enough or this wouldn't be happening. The words hung there, sharp with truth and pain. Because hadn't Sarah told herself stories too? That Rebecca had run away because of something she'd done wrong? That if she'd just been a better mother, worked less, been more available, none of this would have happened. I need some air, Rebecca said suddenly, pushing back from the table. You all need to talk without worrying about me. She left before anyone could protest. Sarah watched her go, seeing herself in the straight spine, the determined stride. Rebecca had her walk. After everything, she still had her walk. She's remarkable, Janet said softly. Strong and compassionate and so smart. She volunteers at the pediatric ward, you know, reads to the children. Says she wants to be a doctor to help kids who can't help themselves. Like Max, Sarah said without thinking. The dog? Richard looked puzzled. Rachel, Rebecca, told us about him, how he saved those children. Is he recovering slowly? Sarah pulled out her phone, showing them a photo from that morning. Max in his hospital crate, bandaged but alert, with Rebecca's hand resting on his head. He's the reason we found her. 3 years of everyone thinking he was losing it, but he never stopped looking. Janet studied the photo with the intensity of someone memorizing a moment. She looks happy. With you, I mean. We told her you'd died because we thought it would be easier, cleaner. Now I see we just added another layer of trauma. The conversation that followed was painful, necessary, full of admissions and accusations, and the kind of raw honesty that comes when everything is already broken. The Beaumonts had genuinely believed they were saving Rebecca, had raised her with love, given her every opportunity. But they'd also been willfully blind, choosing comfortable lies over uncomfortable questions. What happens now? Richard asked finally. Legally, I mean. Are we going to be arrested? Sarah had been wrestling with that question for days. Foster and the FBI wanted to prosecute everyone involved, make examples of them. But watching Janet unconsciously save a spot for Rebecca beside her, seeing Richard's phone wallpaper, Rebecca in a cap and gown, beaming at graduation, Sarah felt the rigid certainty of law enforcement crack. I don't know, she admitted. That's not entirely my call, but Rebecca loves you. Despite everything, she loves you, and she's been through enough loss. We would never try to keep her from you, Janet said quickly. Whatever happens, we want her to have both families, if that's possible. If you can forgive, I can't forgive you. The words came out harsh but honest. Not yet. Maybe not ever. You had 15 years of bedtimes and birthdays and first days of school. I had 15 years of empty rooms and might-have-beens. That math doesn't balance. No, Richard agreed quietly. It doesn't. Sarah's phone buzzed. The veterinary hospital. Her heart lurched. Max had been stable this morning, but at his age with his injuries. Mitchell here. Officer Mitchell. It's Dr. Morrison. I'm calling with an update on Max. He's doing remarkably well, actually. Alert, responsive. He's even trying to stand, though we're keeping him sedated to prevent that. But there's something else. What kind of something? His blood work showed some anomalies. Nothing dangerous, but unusual. Elevated levels of certain hormones typically associated with pregnancy or early bonding. We see it sometimes in therapy dogs who work with children, but never to this degree. Sarah thought of Max crying at the airport, of 3 years of desperate alerts. What does it mean? Honestly, I think your partner formed trauma bonds with these children he was detecting. His brain chemistry literally changed in response to their distress. It's unprecedented. He didn't just smell fear, he felt it, shared it, which might explain why he never gave up looking. After ending the call, Sarah found the Beaumonts watching her with concern. "Max?" Janet asked. "He's improving, being stubborn about bed rest." Sarah pocketed her phone. "He wants to get back to work." "Like handler, like dog," Richard observed with a small smile. Rebecca returned then, carrying a cardboard tray of fresh coffees. She'd been crying, but looked more settled, more certain. "So," she said, distributing cups with practiced efficiency, "have we figured out how to be a really weird, really complicated family?" It wasn't that simple. Nothing about this was simple, but looking at her daughter, brilliant, broken, brave Rebecca, Sarah thought maybe simple was overrated. "We're going to try," she said. Janet reached across the table, not quite touching Sarah's hand, but offering. "All of us?" Sarah thought of Max, fighting his way back from a bullet meant to silence the truth. Of Emma Hayes, learning to speak again after months of enforced silence. Of all the children in suitcases scattered across the country, waiting to be found. "Yeah," she said finally, "all of us." Later, at the veterinary hospital, they stood together around Max's recovery crate. He was awake, tail thumping weakly at the sight of them. Rebecca knelt, pressing her face to the bars. "Hey, hero," she whispered. "I brought my whole weird family to meet you." Max's tail thumped harder. His eyes moved from Rebecca to Sarah to the Beaumonts, assessing, accepting. Then he did something Sarah had never seen in 12 years of partnership. He smiled, a genuine doggy grin that said he understood. They were complicated and messy and not what anyone would have chosen. But they were here, together, found. It was enough. The video deposition took place in a secure federal facility. Margaret Williams centered on the screen like a grandmother reading stories to children. Except her stories detailed the systematic kidnapping of 237 children over 2 decades. Sarah watched from the observation room, fists clenched as Williams calmly explained her selection criteria. "Single parents were preferred," Williams said, adjusting her emerald brooch. "Overworked, isolated, struggling financially. Police officers, nurses, EMTs, high-stress jobs with irregular hours. These parents loved their children, but lacked support systems, easy to document as concerning situations." "And Rebecca Mitchell?" the prosecutor prompted. Williams smiled sadly. Sarah was textbook. Recently divorced, working double shifts, daughter showing signs of parentification. When Derek Mitchell approached me about custody concerns, I saw an opportunity to intervene. Sarah's ex-husband. They'd brought Derek in 2 days ago, shattered by the revelation. He genuinely believed Williams was helping him document concerns for family court. Never imagined she was building a case for kidnapping. "Tell us about David Chen," the prosecutor continued. "David was essential. Former TSA, understood airport security protocols. He recruited handlers from staff who'd been disciplined or terminated. People with access but grudges. They moved children during shift changes, through employee checkpoints, in luggage marked for international flights." "How did you keep the children quiet?" a mild sedative compound. My own formulation from my early work in pediatric psychiatry kept them calm without risking their lives. Usually. Her face hardened. Emma Hayes' handler exceeded the dosage. That was never supposed to happen. And the families who received these children? Carefully vetted, background checks more thorough than any adoption agency. Home visits, psychological evaluations, financial reviews. I matched children to families based on extensive profiles. The Beaumonts, for instance, both doctors. Janet specialized in pediatric care, perfect for a child who'd need emotional healing. Sarah wanted to scream. Williams spoke like she was a matchmaker, not a monster. But the worst part was the record she'd kept. Every child placed, every family created, documented with obsessive detail. Photos of children at graduations, weddings, holding their own babies, success stories in her twisted view. Officer Mitchell. Foster appeared in the doorway. There's been a development. They walked to another interrogation room where David Chen sat shackled to the table. His arm was bandaged where Max had bitten him, and satisfaction curled in Sarah's stomach at the sight. He wants to deal, Foster explained. Says he has information about active operations. Children in transit right now. Sarah entered the room, Chen's eyes tracking her movement. Officer Mitchell? How's your dog? Alive, which is more than you deserve. Chen shrugged. I never wanted to hurt him, or you, or any of them really. It was just a job. Just a job? Sarah's voice rose. Stuffing children into suitcases was just a job? Better than what happens to most missing kids. Chen leaned forward. You want to hate me? Fine. But I made sure they arrived alive. The real monsters are the ones who take runaways off the streets and don't bother with sedatives or air holes. The casual evil of it stole her breath. He genuinely thought he was one of the good guys. 3 children, Chen continued, currently in holding at a house in Houston, supposed to move tomorrow night. 2 boys, brothers, ages 6 and 8. 1 girl, 14. I can give you the address, the handlers' names, everything. But I want witness protection. Williams has people everywhere. Sarah looked at Foster, who nodded slightly. They needed those children safe. Deal, Sarah said. But you're going to tell us everything, every route, every handler, every family that received a child, no omissions. Agreed. Chen relaxed slightly. You know, your daughter was one of my first transports, Montreal route. She was so quiet, kept asking when her mom would come get her. I told her soon. He met Sarah's eyes. I guess I wasn't lying after all. Sarah left before she could do something that would compromise the case. In the hallway, she called Rebecca. Hey, Mom. The word still sounded new, tentative. How did it go? 3 more kids. We'll get them back. Sarah leaned against the wall, exhausted. How's Max? Being terrible. Rebecca's laugh was warm. He keeps trying to chew his IV line. Dr. Morrison says it's a good sign, means he's feeling better. The Beaumonts are here. Janet's reading to him from some veterinary journal. He seems to like her voice. The Beaumonts. Still in Dallas, paying for a hotel, trying to figure out how to exist in this new reality. The U.S. attorney had decided not to press charges. They'd been victims, too, in a way, desperate people exploited by Williams' network. But public opinion was less forgiving. Their names had leaked, and Montreal newspapers were having a field day. I'll be there soon, Sarah promised. Mom? Rebecca's voice went quiet. Chen's going to make a deal, isn't he? They all are. Williams, the handlers, everyone's going to get reduced sentences for cooperation. Probably, yeah. It's not fair. No, Sarah agreed. It's not. The Houston raid went down at 3 a.m. Sarah wasn't supposed to be there. She had no jurisdiction, and Foster had made it clear this was FBI territory. But she and Max had started this. She needed to see it through. She watched from the mobile command unit as tactical teams surrounded a modest two-story house in a quiet suburb. Thermal imaging showed 5 heat signatures. 2 adults, 3 smaller forms huddled together in an upstairs bedroom. The brothers Chen had mentioned clinging to each other in the dark. "Go, go, go!" The breach was swift, professional. No shots fired. The handlers surrendered immediately, probably expecting this day for a while. Sarah watched the body cam feeds as agents found the children, 2 boys hiding under a bed, a teenage girl standing protectively in front of them with a broken lamp as a weapon. "It's okay," she heard an agent say. "We're police. We're here to help." The girl didn't lower the lamp. "That's what the last one said." Sarah's heart broke. How many times had these children been rescued only to be trafficked again? She thought of Rebecca, told her mother was dead, learning not to ask questions. Of Emma, silent in her hospital bed. Of all the children who'd learned that adults lied and safety was an illusion. The scene was still being processed when Sarah's phone rang. Dr. Morrison. "Officer Mitchell, you need to come immediately. It's Max." The drive to the veterinary hospital was a blur. Sarah ran every red light, Foster's raid forgotten. She found Morrison waiting at the entrance, still in surgical scrubs. "He's alive," Morrison said quickly. "But there's been a complication. Internal bleeding we missed. We need to operate again, but at his age, with his weakened condition..." "What are his chances?" Morrison hesitated. 30%, maybe less. "I'm sorry." Sarah found Max in pre-op, Rebecca beside him. The Beaumonts stood in the corner, Janet crying quietly into Richard's shoulder. Max looked so small on the surgical table, fur shaved away, monitors tracking his failing vitals. "Hey, partner." Sarah knelt beside him, taking his paw. "You've got to fight, okay? We're not done yet. There are more kids out there, more suitcases. I need you." Max's eyes found hers, still alert despite the pain medication. His tail moved slightly, their signal for working. Even now, even dying, he was ready for the next surge. "I can't lose you too," Sarah whispered. "I just got Rebecca back. We're supposed to be a family. You, me, her. That's how this works." "Mom." Rebecca's hand found her shoulder. "He knows. Look at him. He knows we're here." Morrison appeared. "We need to take him now." They wheeled Max away, and Sarah felt something inside her break. 12 years of partnership, of saving lives and fighting darkness together. She thought they'd have more time, a retirement full of lazy mornings and gentle walks. Maybe a house with a yard where he could sleep in the sun. "He's strong," Janet Beaumont said softly. She'd approached while Sarah was lost in thought. "I've been reading about him, about both of you. What you've accomplished together. That kind of bond, it doesn't break easily." Sarah looked at this woman who'd raised her daughter, who'd been mom while Sarah was a ghost story. "I hated you when I first found out. I wanted to destroy you." "I know." Janet's voice was steady. "I'd feel the same way. But you love her, really love her, and she loves you." Sarah turned to face her fully. "I can't hate someone my daughter loves. Max taught me that. He loved everyone he rescued, even after seeing the worst of humanity." "Officer Mitchell, Sarah," Janet's voice broke. "I'm so sorry. For everything. If I could give you back those years..." "You can't." Sarah managed a weak smile. "But we have now. However complicated, we have now." They waited together. Sarah, Rebecca, and the Beaumonts. Other officers arrived as word spread. Harrison brought coffee. Foster sent updates from Houston, all 3 children safe, handlers in custody. Even Dr. Patel from Children's Medical Center appeared, having heard about Max from Emma Hayes, who was finally talking and asking about The dog who saved me. 3 hours. 3 eternal hours before Morrison emerged, exhausted but smiling. He made it. That dog has the strongest will to live I've ever seen. It'll be touch and go for a few days, but I'm optimistic. The relief was overwhelming. Rebecca threw her arms around Sarah, then pulled the Beaumonts into the embrace. For a moment, in a veterinary hospital waiting room, they were just a family celebrating good news. Complicated and strange, built on tragedy and lies, but a family nonetheless. "Can we see him?" Sarah asked. Briefly, he's still under heavy sedation. They gathered around Max's recovery crate. He was unconscious, breathing tube in place, but his vital signs were steady. Sarah reached through the bars, touching his paw. "Good boy," she whispered. "Such a good boy." Rebecca leaned against her. "He's going to make it. He has to. We just found each other, all of us. He wouldn't leave now." Sarah thought of the children in Houston, safe because of Chen's information, of Emma Hayes learning to trust again, of the 237 stolen children Williams had documented, many now adults with children of their own. The network was shattered, but the healing would take generations. "No," she agreed, watching Max's chest rise and fall. "He wouldn't leave. There's still work to do." 6 months later, the bronze statue caught the morning light just right, making Max appear almost alive. Sarah stood before it with a cup of coffee, a ritual she'd developed since the memorial's installation. The plaque read simply, K9 Max, who heard the silent screams, 2012 to 2024. "You always did like the attention," she murmured, touching the statue's nose. It had already been worn smooth by countless hands. Travelers, airport workers, families who'd heard the story. "Mom?" Rebecca appeared beside her, dressed for her volunteer shift at Children's Medical Center. She spent every break from McGill here, working with young trauma survivors. "Ready?" Today was special. Emma Hayes was being discharged, finally healed enough, physically and emotionally, to go home with Jennifer. It had taken 6 months of therapy, multiple surgeries for old injuries, and Max's constant presence to get her there. They found Max in his usual spot in the pediatric ward, custom wheelchair supporting his paralyzed hindquarters. He'd never walked again after the second surgery, but that hadn't stopped him. The hospital had certified him as a therapy dog, and he spent his days visiting children, letting them cry into his fur, teaching them that survival was possible. "Max!" Emma ran to him, no longer the silent, terrified child from the suitcase. She dropped to her knees, wrapping her arms around his neck. "I drew you another picture." She produced a crayon masterpiece. Max with a cape, flying over an airport, catching bad people in nets. It was the 15th such drawing she'd made, and Max's handler, a young veteran named Marcus who'd lost his own service dog, carefully added it to the collection on the wall. "He loves it," Marcus assured Emma. "See his tail?" Indeed, Max's tail was wagging, the one part of his lower body that still had some function. His eyes, though clouded with age, were bright with purpose. Jennifer knelt beside her niece, legally her daughter now, the adoption finalized just last week. "Say goodbye, sweetheart. We'll visit next month. Promise? Promise?" Emma kissed Max's graying muzzle. "Thank you for finding me. Thank you for not giving up." As they watched Emma leave, hand in hand with Jennifer, Sarah felt the familiar tightness in her chest. Another successful ending, another family reunited. But the cost. "The Beaumonts are here," Rebecca said softly. "In the cafeteria. They wanted to say goodbye before heading back to Montreal." The goodbye was harder than Sarah expected. Over 6 months, they'd found a rhythm, shared dinners, awkward holidays, slow building of trust. Rebecca split her time between Dallas and Montreal, refusing to choose between her families. It wasn't perfect, but it was working. "Thank you," Janet said, embracing Sarah, "for letting us remain in her life, for not pressing charges, for forgiveness." Sarah returned the embrace, surprising herself. "We're family. Weird, complicated family, but family." Richard shook her hand, then pulled her into a hug. "Take care of our girl, and that remarkable dog." After they left, Sarah and Rebecca returned to Max. He was sleeping now, worn out from the morning's visits. At 12 and a half, every day was a gift. "I've been thinking," Rebecca said, "about what Dr. Morrison said, about Max's brain chemistry, how it changed, how he literally felt those children's fear." "Yeah? What if we could study it, understand it, maybe develop training programs for other K-9 units?" Rebecca's eyes lit up with possibility. "I've been talking to my neurology professor. She thinks there might be a paper in it, maybe even applications for human trauma detection." Sarah smiled. Her daughter, the future doctor, finding ways to turn pain into purpose. Max would like that. His legacy helping other dogs save kids. His legacy is already huge, Mom. 237 children found because he wouldn't give up. Chen's network exposed. Laws changed. Rebecca paused. "You found because he brought us together." That evening, they brought Max home in the special van equipped with his wheelchair ramp. Sarah had bought a single-story house with a yard, something she'd dreamed about during his recovery. Max settled onto his orthopedic bed by the window, where he could watch the street and keep guard even in retirement. Rebecca made dinner while Sarah sorted through the day's mail. Among the bills and advertisements was a thick envelope from the FBI. Inside, photos and letters from 12 of the children Max had saved. Thank you notes in crayon, school photos, promises to never forget. "He did good?" Rebecca said, reading over her shoulder. "The best," Sarah agreed. As night fell, they sat together, Sarah, Rebecca, and Max. A family forged in trauma, but held together by love. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There were still children missing, still cases to solve. But tonight, they were home. Max's tail thumped against his bed, and Sarah could have sworn he was smiling. Dear friends, if this story touched your heart, you're not alone. As we navigate our golden years, we often reflect on what truly matters, the unwavering loyalty of those who stand by us, whether they walk on 2 legs or 4. Max's story reminds us that heroes don't always wear badges. Sometimes they wear collars and leave paw prints on our hearts. Like many of you who've loved and lost faithful companions, Sarah's journey with Max shows us that love transcends species, and that the bonds we forge with our 4-legged family members can heal wounds we thought would never close. In a world that often feels disconnected, Max proved that paying attention, really seeing those who need help, can change lives forever. His legacy lives on in every child saved, every family reunited, and every heart that chooses compassion over indifference. We'd love to hear from you. What beloved pet changed your life in ways you never expected? Have you ever witnessed an animal's intuition save or profoundly impact someone's life? Please share your stories in the comments below. Your experiences matter and might just inspire someone who needs to hear them today. Let's celebrate these unsung heroes together.